Day. Thank you so much for being here again. This is our last session of our June CLC events, and I just really appreciate you all being here. I'm going to get this going here. So if you don't already know, my name is Ryan Ben. I'm the Director of Association Experience here at IIDA. I'm really glad to be here with all of you. Thank you again for joining us. I wanted to let you know that today we'll be going through all of our chapter award winners. We have 4 amazing chapters joining us to share a bit of their wisdom, expertise, and some of their knowledge. I'm really excited to have you all here. If you want to, you can feel free to use the chat to send any questions along the way. We also have a Q&A feature enabled. So if you have any questions for any of the chapters, send them my way and I will try and get them to the chapter while we're going through the presentations. We're going to be doing 4 chapters. Like I said, I'm going to try and spend about 10 or 15 minutes on each chapter. When we get done with all 4 presentations, what I will do is our IIDA HQ team is going to send you all breakout links for the meeting room. If you're able to join us from 12 to 12:30 today after today's session, we can continue the discussion, continue knowledge sharing, continuing to help each other out. If you can't join us, no worries. We are recording this program, so if you have peers that weren't able to attend, they will be able to access the recording later. And then I will also share that we posted all 4 of these winning submissions on our website, so you can go there to see them in full. As we work through them today, we'll only be just doing a part of each presentation as opposed to the full presentation. So, like I said, we have 4 incredible chapters with us today. We have the Mid-America chapter, the South Florida chapter, the Ohio-Kentucky chapter, and then the New England chapter. And to get us started, I'd like to welcome Katie Parker of the Mid-America chapter to join me so we can work through their submission for the chapter awards. Katie, thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate having you here today. Oh, can you unmute yourself?
Perfect. Good start.
Awesome.
Right? Yeah. No, we're excited to be here and we thank you guys for the award.
Yeah, thank you. So real quick, can you just introduce yourself to everybody and maybe just give us a big overview of what your chapter submitted for the best thing ever?
Totally. I'm Katie Parker, a senior designer for a furniture dealership. I have been a member of IIDA since I was a student in college and grew a passion for this organization from the start. I've always had a soft spot in my heart for fostering student connections with our profession, so campus relations was a natural fit for my interest. I was a campus relations committee member for many years before taking on my current VP role in 2019. I was honored when our chapter brainstormed for what our 2020 Best Thing Ever submission would be, and it was pretty clear that campus relations over the course of this last year has been a strong attribute. So we crafted a Best Thing Ever presentation that outlines a bit about our committee, shares a few stories about our campuses, and includes lessons learned for engagement in a pandemic year.
Awesome, Katie. Thank you so much for sharing all that with us. I really appreciate it. Very quickly, I think it's important for attendees to know a little bit more about your chapter and the geography that impacts your chapter. So could you talk a little bit about how this team that submitted this award, how did you tackle the geography question? Can you just give us a little bit of the lay of the land?
Totally. Kind of maybe bump in here on the mission statement. And then, yeah, I think our next slide kind of flows a little bit more into our geography. So I might just flow with you here, Ryan, a little bit.
Please.
Slides. So yeah, after listening to a chapter leadership webinar when taking this VP position, one challenge that headquarters mentions to us is finding our vision or purpose as a group, which is something our campus relations committee specifically had not developed for our group. So when starting this VP role, I challenged the committee to write a mission statement, which would drive our decisions moving forward. We go back to this mission statement before we prep on event concepts, and especially became a useful tool in 2020 when we were looking for a more holistic approach to our student programming. I also want to point out on this slide that we did all of our work with 3 people on the committee. So a chapter goal of ours going into 2021 was to ramp up our committee members on campus relations, which I can successfully say we're up to 6 committee members now, plus myself. So I am looking forward to what more minds bring to our table, but I am very proud of everything that I'm going to share today with you and what we accomplished as a group of 3.
Thank you so much for keeping me honest. I appreciate it.
Yeah. And then our next slide, a little bit kind of, I think this is a good little view. Our Mid-America chapter covers the state of Kansas and roughly 3/4 of Missouri. So I think this map is great to see the proximities of our current 9 campuses that we cover. Our furthest campuses are roughly 3 hours from the centralized hub of Kansas City, making a drive for events to campuses practical in a day's time. So over this past year, we were lucky to have made an in-person connection with the University of Kansas in January for a campus kickoff presentation, which promotes all things IIDA to students. We successfully recruited 21 students to become IIDA members after that first visit. And then later in the year, KU became a campus center for us. So if interested in hearing more about KU's story, again, please check out our Best Thing Ever presentation for more information. This past year, we also started connections with 2 new campuses at Missouri State University, and in conjunction with the Gateway chapter, a connection with the University of Missouri that is also notable experiences for us.
Yeah, that's awesome. Katie, I'm going to, you inspired me a quick question that we didn't prepare for, but I'm just curious, these 21 students, what do you think was so attractive to them about IIDA? Why do you think you got that response?
So KU is interesting. They shut down their program for a couple years, and they've been regrowing it and put it under a different college within the campus. So essentially, these were freshman, sophomore level students that we went to and discussed with. They were really fresh minds, really open, I think, to joining an organization, and they didn't have an interiors group on campus yet. So we were kind of their first reach to start bridging that gap for an interior design organization at KU. So yeah.
Very cool. That's really helpful to hear. I just hearing you talk about it, I was like, wow, that's really impressive. I'm just curious, like, again, the kind of the point of the program today is just to share and inspire some of that information. So it's really good to hear that you all kind of filled a void there. It sounds like that there was a missing element that IIDA could serve.
Totally. And we're 100% working with them with all of the campus center documents as far as how to start building it and setting up their board for them as far as a campus center. So there's been a lot of kind of bonding and relationship building for sure this past
That's fantastic. Congratulations. Can you tell me a little bit about this vision and mission statement that you've referenced already?
Yes. So one thing our committee heard from student members even before the pandemic was, well, I paid $60 to headquarters and I'm an IIDA student member, but what else do I get out of this, right? Mm-hmm. And ironically, the same thought mirrors the sentiments shared during last week's CLC with the Best Thing Ever Campus Center presentation. A student presenter had made the comment that students want to know what we are getting out of it. So I planted the seed for the committee to reflect on our events at the beginning of 2020 and held our actual decision making off till I was back from winter CLC, which focused around campus engagement last year. So I recall the plane ride back to Kansas City being a very valuable use of time to dive into our events from a holistic perspective versus making decisions event by event. Next, our committee met up to discuss our winter CLC findings and finalize a few possible new ideas for programs that we might introduce over the next year. Then we presented these top ideas into an event survey at our portfolios and professionals to gauge student interest. So luckily we were able to host this event in person. It is typically one of our highest attended student events. So we had lots of survey feedback to work from. And then the lockdowns hit the Midwest in mid-March, and that gave the committee a little extra time to finalize some of our visions for the year ahead. So while pulling this presentation together, there are 3 themes, I think, which became pretty prominent over our year of success. So we were more consistent with our interactions. We took the time to map out the school year of events, and that was super valuable and informative to share with our campuses going into a school year. Engagement, this word does not only mean the topics that we host are relevant, but that we attempted to bring a level of viewer participation into play. And unintentionally, I think by doing all of these steps and looking at our calendar of events from a holistic approach, we started developing deeper relationships with our campuses.
That's incredible to hear. I really, really appreciate all that. Again, I'm going to go off script just because you're inspiring me. Interesting questions. You and your committee members are really engaged with each other. It seems like you're in a constant conversation. Can you just share a little bit about the behind the scenes of, how do you keep these conversations going? How do you keep each other motivated and inspired? It just seems like you're very passionate, and I'd just be kind of curious to hear for you and your group, what keeps you kind of moving through this process?
For sure. And deep question, Ryan. So One, obviously our committee members are super dedicated, so that's helpful, and they had time to give. So that's number one importance. Also, I think, we all found a passion for student engagement, and that's why we're on this committee. And so that drove us. We started setting up monthly meetings with each other, first Friday of every month in the morning, as it worked with our schedules. And sometimes we meet in person, mostly online last year. And so just having that consistent conversation and always driving to the next, couple months ahead with each other, that kind of kept us on the same page, I think, consistently as a group.
That's awesome. I think the reason why I wanted to hear a little more about that is because it seems like you not only came up with this vision and shared it with students and made it a part of how you dictated your programming and your events, but you also lived the vision and you you talk the talk and walk the walk. And so I just wanted to hear more about that. So thank you for sharing it. Programming, can you talk a little bit about previous programming, new programming that you have planned?
Yes. So if you see our calendar of events and what we submitted, it's lengthy that you'll find out. But if you want to know any more about any of the events we host, again, feel free to reach out to me or ask Ryan and he can make the connection between us. I'm happy to explain any of these further. For the sake of time, I think I'll cover kind of our 4 new events that we introduced and why we introduced them and what we're looking forward to. So Designers Discuss Design, that was actually a former committee member in 2019 had brought the idea up to the group about hosting a podcast for students. So we were already toying with this idea already before the pandemic hit, and then there was no better time to introduce it once we hit mid-March. So we turned Triple D into our filler event. So while the committee plans for larger student events, we can offer this in our easier months as a quick 30-minute conversation with a designer or panel of designers about design topics with 15 minutes of Q&A at the end of the discussion. Ryan even joined us for our very first one ever. So that was exciting. And thank you very much, Ryan.
Yeah, of course, it was a blast.
And again, we're just trying to be more consistent with our interactions was the purpose for that event in total. Connect. So after CLC last year, one thing that was apparent is our chapter did not have a mentor program for students. We had one for young professionals in our industry, but not students specifically. So we introduced in the fall of 2020 a semester-long mentorship program called Connect. We have had nothing but great participation from both professionals and students in this program after the past 2 semesters. So for sure, this is a program with tons of longevity for all of our IIDA members. Pints and Professors. So looking at the list of events, we asked ourselves, why not host something for the faculty? So Pints and Professors is a spring semester post-graduation celebration to say thank you to the faculty, to hear feedback on our engagement from the past year with campuses, and an opportunity for faculty members to network with one another. So again, we're just driving home that relationship model. This is also an event we look to continue to gain valuable insights from and continue forward with. And then we have Instagram Campus Takeover. So the first 3 ideas I've discussed were beautiful and they worked out perfectly. And Instagram Takeover is a different tale to share with you guys today. It didn't quite work out as we planned. So we heard from a campus that it would be nice if our IIDA chapter could promote their design program for additional exposure to our social media audience. We took that idea and thought, let's give each campus a day to take over our chapter Instagram account. So we assigned one campus to a month in the school year ahead, which they could submit to us a curated post on a short list of criteria about their programs, their work, people, and what inspires them. By the end of the fall semester, we only had one school send information to us and a couple of others that started it, but never actually finished their submissions. So overall, this takeover concept had good intentions, but we discovered that it turned into extra homework assignments for students, so they didn't actually finish the participation part.
That is really helpful to hear. Thank you, Katie.
Yeah, and our committee met last night for our annual visioning session, and I think we're going to take this in a new direction for this next year moving forward. So please stay tuned to our Instagram feed over the course of the next year and see what we come up with here.
That's awesome. Thank you. And again, this is a good tip. If you don't know what to do, alliteration always works. So I think Pints and Professors is a great example of that. Real quickly, I think we're just about done with time, but can you just, for everybody watching, what were some of the big takeaways for you? I mean, I know you've got this slide with all this information, but what are you holding on to and carrying with you right now?
So I think, yeah, like I said, you said, Ryan, all of this information here, feel free to read through. If you have questions, just reach back out to us and we can explain further on how it worked. I really want to end, I think, on, we learned a lot as a committee during 2020, and we know engaging with students will be different in the year ahead since we can be back on campus. In 2020, we saw new faces that joined us virtually that hadn't in the past, which was a positive. So while our Spring Connect mentor survey results showed that students and professionals are yearning for some in-person interactions, we look to really kind of blend that into a hybrid model this fall, see how it works, and then rejudge and evaluate the spring semester as well if we do more in-person or if we keep our hybrid world. So that's kind of our approach, and using these top 10 tips to kind of take us through those models as well.
Awesome, Katie. Thank you so much for being here with me today. I really appreciate all of your expertise and passion. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Yeah, no, we thank you for the award.
All right, I want to welcome our next chapter to join us to share a little bit about their submission and what they've been working on. Maria from the South Florida chapter, thank you so much for being here with me today. I really, really appreciate you.
Thank you so much for the award. It's a pleasure.
Yeah. Of course, of course. So you actually submitted a video, so we are going to play that video. But before we do, could you just introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about who you are, and maybe just give us an overview of what the video covers?
Yeah, sure. So my name is Maria Sanchez, and I am the VP of Events for the South Florida chapter. We planned a virtual design awards show this past year due to the pandemic, so that we could all really continue feeling connected while being apart. And we really submitted this program to encourage others to continue being innovative and resilient, and to just share an example of a successful virtual design awards during the pandemic.
Awesome, that's perfect. Let's take a watch.
Hi, I'm Alexis Moore, the president for the South Florida chapter of IIDA. We can't wait to share with you our best thing ever. Our board and committee members did not let a pandemic halt our momentum as a community. We pushed forward and never looked back. Like many other events worldwide, we took our annual Design Awards Gala virtual. Through our virtual Bragg Awards, we provided a fun and memorable celebration of design excellence and personal and project achievements within our community. We are here to explain why our Bragg Awards stood apart from the crowd, being exceptionally successful and engaging for our design community.
We actually partnered with a company called Zippin Media, and they helped us orchestrate and facilitate all the moving parts that needed to happen to put on a fabulous virtual production.
Utilizing a professional production company, we created a combination of pre-recorded keynotes and speeches filmed in annual sponsor showrooms, along with commercials from annual sponsors, plus a more personal touch with a live portion. The hour-long production was all streamed seamlessly on our chapter's website on September 25th, 2020.
Member engagement was a top priority. Through social media, our committee raffled off free tickets and 50 free Bragg swag bags and hand-delivered these to the winners' homes. In addition, the 25 winners from last year received a prepared meal and a bottle of wine from a local restaurant, thanking the firms for their continued support. We also encouraged our members to share via social media their snacks, drinks, and outfits in order to connect our community virtually while the winners were being announced live.
Judgify is a software that we decided to invest in to help streamline the judging and submissions process of Bragg 2020. It allows firms to submit multiple projects, upload images, and pay for submissions, and it allows judges to see, rate, and comment on each firm's submission. Overall, it was a great resource that helped us administer the first virtual Bragg successfully.
We had more engagement than ever from the students. We had 4 student categories, one of them the senior project submission, which was the one that I won, and 3 other additionals where students needed to submit a video or essay with different prompts. In this year virtual event, we were able to see double the amount of entries from the student members, which allows also to be able to double the amount of scholarships, with over $6,000 in scholarship to students members of IIDA.
During the filming process, our sponsors had great exposure and involvement, including product spotlights, 30-second commercial breaks, and 3 top sponsors were on camera to announce award winners. As an annual sponsor myself with OFS, We especially recognized the value in our sponsorship and appreciated the benefit of being featured on air and felt engaged in the event.
Our overall theme for the online ceremony spoke about how design is resilient and bold. In the end, our members, their projects, and the teams behind the scenes exemplified their boldness and resilience physically, apart, but together mentally. Our chapter had never fully done a virtual event before, and yet our team rallied together and ensured the community had the opportunity to celebrate their design excellence regardless of the pandemic. As a result, the production was not only professional and entertaining, but also financially successful, with over $9,000 in event sponsorships and over $10,000 in ticket sales and submission fees. This way, we were able to cover all of our costs and even had enough left over for student scholarships and firm awards. We invite you to watch the full production on our chapter's website. We hope that you have as much fun tuning in as we did bragging about our design together.
That is absolutely awesome. I am so appreciative. For our conversation, I'm gonna go back to the slide with you on it. Thank you so much for submitting this. This was great. It's really hard not to watch that video and feel really inspired.
No, thank you so much for the award. We really are super honored.
Yeah, so a couple of questions just to give a little bit more information for folks watching. You had so many people featured in the video. It looks like it was all hands on deck. So can you just talk a little bit about how the event was staffed? How did you get so many volunteers for this expansive event?
Yeah, so most of the volunteers who helped plan this event were board members, such as the events team, the sponsorship team, our president, the winners of the awards as well. And then we did have some hired staff, which was the production company Zippin, as Nicole mentioned in the video. And to hire the production company, we obtained, quotes from various production companies and ended up choosing the company that was really willing to work with our budget and our needs.
That's fantastic to hear. Can you share a little bit more details? Obviously, we've already mentioned alliteration. Rhyming also works. So you had these brag swag bags, if I got that right. Can you talk a little bit more about these member engagement bags and how the sponsors contributed to them?
Yeah, sure. So the brag bags was an event sponsorship opportunity that our committee came up with, which allowed our local reps to showcase their products and inform designers of new collections during a time when it was really difficult to get face time with designers due to the pandemic. To really keep the virtual show engaging, we had multiple social media contests like best food, best cocktail, and best dress. And the viewers would post images of, their snacks or drinks and either dressy or comfy outfits. Typically we have like a gala for the design awards, but since it was, virtual, we were like, let's take it a different twist and do maybe some comfy outfits. And so these were posted on various social media platforms, and we would monitor all the media that would be coming in. And at the end of the show, the sponsor for each contest was another sponsorship opportunity. They would go live and then announce the winner based on the most likes. So in the live portion of the event was also filmed in an annual sponsors showroom. So just trying to be really innovative and think about different ways that we can incorporate our sponsors since they're so valuable to us.
Yeah. That's so helpful to hear, Maria. I feel like from the video and from hearing you talk about it, you really put fun and joy in front of everything else. It sounds like everything you're describing sounds fun to do and fun, sounds joyful. Did you get good reactions to it from members? Were they having a good time?
We did. Everybody reacted really well to the video. They said that it was really professional. You could tell that we curated in a way that was purposeful. And that's something that we've really been striving to, achieve for in our events, is to add purpose. We all love a good party, but how do we make it meaningful and impactful to the community? So that's something that I think we did pretty well in this brag show. And I will add just a little on the actual luncheon that we gave. So pre-COVID and previous brag awards, the winners would be invited to a luncheon with all the previous winners of the IIDA, the brag show, and also IIDA leadership. But for this past brag, we gifted the previous winners with a delicious meal from a local restaurant that was delivered to their homes the night before the virtual brag award show. So still, keeping our memberships happy as well.
That is awesome, awesome, awesome to hear. Because we have so many chapter leaders on the call today, and for folks who are watching it later, could you give us just a little bit more information on what the cost was? How did this judging platform work? Did you get any feedback from any of the jurists on it? I think it would be valuable for people to hear more about it.
Yeah, definitely. So the judging platform that we used was called Judgify, and it really helped streamline our submissions process. This platform allowed designers to submit and pay associated fees. It allowed the judges to review and provide the administrator the ability to actually communicate with both the judges and the submissions or the designers that were submitting. And we could even filter view settings so that no identifiable data was released, for the judges' side of things. It cost us $1,250, which is a reoccurring setup fee that we would pay every year that we have BRAG. And, there's always glitches with new technology, but the feedback was overall really positive from the judges, definitely very, very positive from our submissions team, as it significantly reduced the load of work surrounding the submissions process.
That is awesome. You mentioned in the video, or it was mentioned in the video, that there was a higher amount of student engagement with this year's program. Why do you think that was? It sounds like that was really successful for them.
Yeah, I think this is the reason, we had so much student engagement, is because we really wanted to focus on the students, because we're giving away scholarships, and I don't think a lot of the students even were aware that this was happening. So we wanted to do a big push and have our students that were on the board spread the word. And, we also spread the word via social media platforms, which students are actively on. And, we let them know that we're offering scholarships to all the winners of both the essay and the senior project contests. And then it resulted in a record-breaking student submissions. I think we had about 16 student submissions, and in the past it's been about, like 2 to 3, sometimes 4. So definitely a big significant increase there.
Yeah, what I like about hearing all of that is that, so often I think chapters sometimes get a little frustrated because, you might have money or opportunities to give away to students, and there's just not the reception you think there will be. And I think it's because we do this at headquarters sometimes too, but you kind of accidentally sit on your laurels a little bit of just like, well, it's money, like, of course they'll come and get money. It's like, no, you actually really do need to kind of not just tell them what the scholarship is, but how to apply, walk them through the process, make it really obvious for them.
Right. Marketing in the best way possible.
Agreed. Last but certainly not least, obviously this was really successful. You all did a tremendous job. What are you going to carry over for your next iteration of this awards program?
Yeah, so we'll definitely continue to use Judgify to streamline the submission and judging process, and just to keep track of all the submission fees. But for this year's BRAG show, we will be hosting our first ever hybrid award show. So that will be pre-recorded. So we'll be using the same production company that we used previously in the previous year. And on the premiere date, those from the community who feel comfortable will be invited to watch a watch party at a local theater. So using our Judgify platform and our production company to take this event to the next level, and hopefully in the next year in 2022, we'll be able to have, our in-person, fully curated BRAG show like normal.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for being here today. I really appreciate all of your knowledge and expertise, and you'll have to keep us posted on how that hybrid event goes, because I think a lot of chapters will be attempting that same thing.
Yeah, we'll definitely do that. It'll be in September, so stay tuned to our social media accounts for some feedback on that.
Cool. Awesome. Thank you so much, Maria. I really, really, really appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, I want to welcome our next chapter here, the Ohio-Kentucky chapter. Christina from that chapter is going to be joining us to walk through their presentation. Christina, thank you so much for being here today with me. I really appreciate it.
Yes, I'm excited to be here and very honored to receive this award amongst all these other amazing programs. So thank you very much, headquarters.
Yeah, of course, anytime. Can you introduce yourself to everybody and tell us maybe just a little bit of the overview of the submission?
Absolutely. My name is Christina Reagan, and I am an associate and director of interior design at TIDA, DeFrancesco, and Siebold, more familiarly called HDNS. It's a lot less of a mouthful. And in my spare time, I love to be the VP of membership for the Ohio-Kentucky chapter. Membership suits me very well because I love to meet new people. I love to engage with people. I love to share my love of IIDA with others and kind of bring them over into our community here. So we started to work on the Get Connected program because we have 5 individual city centers that are very active individually, and we struggle a lot with having chapter events. So one of the things that we wanted to do was to connect our members through some kind of programming, but still allow the city centers to have a little bit of individuality. So that is how the Get Connected was born. And it was also a program that was already, it was actually called How to Get Involved, and that was in Columbus. So they were already working on a program that we started talking about, and we decided would be a good opportunity for our whole entire chapter to figure out a way that we could do it. And we adapted the name and called it, now we call it Get Connected. And we figured out a way that we could, you know, just like probably every other chapter, we struggle with recruitment, keeping members involved, and then also finding people to take over these volunteer roles that we all hold so dear. So that was another reason for us to start focusing on this Get Connected, because we could share with people in the city center what's going on in their city center, also in our chapter, and then what is happening at headquarters as well.
Yeah, just to build on that a little bit more, Christina, this engagement challenge, I think that you're describing, you know, what do you think were barriers before this, and how did this program address them?
Yeah, I think a lot of people, they see the volunteers that are very involved, that are involved on a regular basis, that spend a lot of time on IIDA, which is important. We need all of us, I call us the crazy Kool-Aid drinkers, and that's very important. But we also have people that may want to be more involved on a smaller scale, but they don't really know how to get started. So one, they don't feel comfortable necessarily putting themselves out there. So these smaller groups that we have at the Get Connected events leave people the opportunity to ask questions. It also gives us a chance to talk to people about the things and the programs that are going on further on in the year. So we can figure out what are their schedules, when are they more available, what are the things that they're passionate about. So we think it's really a lot about letting people be involved without overcommitting.
I love that. A phrase I've been thinking about a lot, especially the last month or so, as the pandemic has been changing, is this idea of meeting people where they are. And it sounds like what you're describing is a really good, just a really good job of doing that. I mean, it sounds like you weren't just presenting them with programming or resources, but you were also inviting them to be participants in the crafting and creating of this, and to give you feedback that you all could use and inform future events and programs. Do I have that right?
Yeah, and it's nice because it's definitely, these events are definitely programs that students can be a part of, that new members can be a part of, that potential new members, like we're really welcoming everybody to hear what everybody's thoughts are, and also to try to engage people at any level of their professional career or also their IIDA experience.
Yeah, I think that that's what really jumped out with this submission, is just how welcoming it was. You know, this idea, this program is just so welcoming. So can you just share a little bit about what this bright idea was, and tell the attendees a little bit more about it?
Yes, so like I said, it started in Columbus, and one of their main goals was to attract people to sign up for their city center roles. So it was a way to tell people about what the individual roles are, and what your opportunities are with IIDA. So when we went to one of the CLCs, headquarters gave out $1,000, and we were like, well, what are we going to do with this $1,000? That's going to be impactful. So that's when we started and actually a graphics competition. So that was the beginning of kind of trying to reconnect our chapter together. So we created a graphics package that would unify us for some of our events. And then the next year we thought, what other graphics do we need? And that was when we were really talking about trying to make the Get Connected chapter wide. So it seemed like a natural fit to use the same amount of money for a graphics competition to allow members to submit graphics that would be used across all of our city centers for our Get Connected event. So we got those graphics. So that was great because we got members involved in that activity to kind of get the buy-in for that. And then in 2020, we were fortunate to host all 5 of our city center events in person because we did them at the beginning of the year. And like I said, the individual events themselves, it's sort of like we try to do them in a showroom or basically a space that we're not spending a lot of money on the venue. The whole goal of this is to inspire members or non-members, but not spend a lot of money on having a fancy venue. It's all about having a space where we can break out into smaller areas, where we can talk to people about, what we're doing, what's coming up, and allow people to really interact with us on a more intimate basis.
I love, before we move on to the next slide, but I love this line at the bottom of the 2020 Get Connected events. Each event was tailored to the culture of the local city center. I think that that's a really, 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 really smart way of approaching events and programs, thinking about the culture first and who's going to be there and what they need and want. So I just want to say kudos to that. I think that's great.
Yeah, and we have found when we've looked at chapter events, we can't just pigeonhole everybody in each city center to do the same exact thing. It just doesn't work. So this is these are some images of what I was talking about earlier. You can see people kind of gathering in smaller groups. Also, a lot of times people will bring a colleague with them. And it's just a way so that people can come to a program. What we find is that before people have attended a lot of events and programming through IIDA, that they feel a little bit hesitant because they don't know everybody there. So we find with these smaller groups, we can really start to talk to people and find out what they need. We also give away a free membership. So that comes out of our chapter budget. Each city center gives away a free membership. And it's been interesting because we've been tracking those members to see what happens, what becomes of them. And we found that a lot of them stay members and that they actually become more involved, either taking a role on a city center committee, volunteering for an event, or even just being a panelist on one of our roundtables.
That is a really, really helpful and inspiring thing to think about. I know that a lot of chapters use a free membership or some sort of membership giveaway to get more people involved, but to track them and see how they're getting involved, how long they're staying active with the chapter, it's really good advice. Okay, Christina, city center highlights. What'd you hear from chapter, chapter leaders, attendees? What feedback did you get?
So this was nice because actually creating this submission, we reached out to a lot of people to ask for their quotes and their feedback and what happened. And it was neat because each city center was a little bit unique. The Toledo one, for example, there was a woman that was working there that didn't know a lot of people. She was working remotely before working remotely was cool. And so she got to attend the city center event and actually meet people that she would not have otherwise met. So that was really exciting. Cleveland Akron had one of the legislators attend the event. So people got to learn about advocating for their profession firsthand. So each city center just kind of put their own special twist on it. But I think what was really, really neat about that is that we got to impact, student members, learning about advocacy, learning about reaching out to people and just kind of have a different view of each event and who the people were. So we got a ton, like I said before, we had people that joined that became part of city center committees that volunteered. So we really were fortunate to have a lot of buy-in from people at the city center, the directors, the members, and also the chapter. It was great overall.
Yeah, and I love this quote from Tiffany. I mean, it's really inspiring. You all had submitted a slide for each of the city centers, and I picked this one because I just love this quote, and I love how she felt so much warmth from all of you. You can just tell, like, she was really welcomed and glowingly praised the event. So congratulations.
Yeah, and she's a rock star. I mean, she's attended a lot of our virtual events, throughout the year. So it's great to see these faces and to see them stick around.
That's awesome. So real quickly, I just want to talk a little bit more. This is the last slide. So obviously some stuff changed in the last year. What are you planning on carrying forward to future versions of this event? What do you have planned for the chapter?
Yeah, I think we were very fortunate, like I said, to have these events in person. And I think it really set kind of a bouncing off point for us to start planning more chapter events or more events that might be city center focused that other people from other city centers could attend because they were virtual. Also, through all of this, the membership components of each city center, we all work together to plan this event. So it reminded us that we can plan events all across our chapter together, and we can work, over phone calls and virtual meetings and things like that to make these programs successful. So in a kind of crazy way, it taught us that we could do these things before we were absolutely forced to. So then when we became forced to, we kind of already had a pattern a little bit. And then, we got to also still get to be connected with all of our members on these virtual meetings, new member coffees, holiday. I think everybody knows all of the interesting programming that we all went through. But what's really exciting is that these Get Connected events, we are doing them this year. We've kind of shifted them a little bit further to the summer so that we could have them in person. And for most of our city centers, they're our first in-person events. So we've kind of come full circle, having held these events in person in 2020 and then holding out and now hosting these events in person again for 2021. It's really exciting.
That is absolutely awesome. We've got another minute or so. Any other tips, tricks, pieces of advice you can share with attendees about, you've been a dedicated volunteer for a long time. I think a lot of chapters are looking to the fall as being challenging and opportunistic opportunity for chapters and members. So what are you thinking about, or what can you share?
Yeah, I would say some of the things that we're talking about with membership is, staying engaged with members and how do we do that? And
oh, Christina, I might have lost you by accident. No worries. I think we froze you. No worries. I will assume that what you were about to say was super inspiring and great, and I will make you email it to me later. No worries at all. Thank you so much, Christina. We really, 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 really appreciate you being here. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. I want to move on to our next chapter. We're going to welcome Ryan and Lisa from the New England chapter. Just want to say thank you so much for both of you to be here. I'm really, really, really appreciative. It's great having you both here. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Hello, Ryan.
Hi, thank you for having us.
Yeah, of course. So real quickly before we get into your presentation, can you just introduce yourselves and tell us a little bit about just overall what the program was and what you submitted?
Yeah, so I am I actually ran the Emerging Leaders program up in New England for a few years. We started in 2018 and 19, and then I convinced the board of directors to let me go for a third year so that we could offset the co-chair responsibilities. There's always two co-chairs, and for whatever reason, they kind of started and stopped at the same time. So we were finding that the knowledge transfer kind of got lost. And so I recommended to them like, hey, I'll stay on for another year if you let me, and we'll bring on another person. So Lisa, who is a dear friend of mine, got to be a co-chair with me in 2020. So, it was really fun for us to kind of do together, and we've worked together really well in the past. So it was nice to have that opportunity again.
That's
And
fantastic
also,
to hear. Go ahead, Lisa.
Oh, I was just going to say it was a great opportunity. We were trying to kind of get different perspectives. So, Ryan, you didn't say, but you work currently for Knoll Textiles, previously a designer, and then I'm a senior associate at E4H architecture. And so it was nice to be able to have kind of the complement between the two of us to kind of come up with some fresh ideas and then also tailor the program. And then I was a graduate of the Emerging Leaders program from years past. So it was a nice little full circle moment for me to come back and co-chair the program.
That's so fantastic. Thank you for sharing that. So let's get into this this program a little bit. Can you just tell me, what is the challenge that the chapter is trying to address with this program, and how did you all come up with the idea and execute it?
Yeah, so the Emerging Leaders Program has been around since 2013. And a few years ago, we actually submitted that program for the Best Thing Ever award, and we won it. So, we know it's successful. I think other chapters have implemented it since. And it really engages designers between 3 and 8 years of experience to really develop more professional leadership qualities, right? So every workshop that we have, we meet once a month. We did I think the second Monday of every month or third Monday, we were trying to meet in person. So historically, we were always in person, right? And we would host it at different chapter sponsor showrooms or event spaces that were free and shared. We would have, some catered food, and we would typically have a guest speaker or some kind of workshop event that people were engaging with. So last year, it was actually the first year that we opened it up for self-nomination. Typically, in the past, we had like the principals of the design firms nominate somebody, but last year we kind of opened it up like to anybody in the entire region. So we were able to kind of get all of these applicants in January. They were blinded, right? So Lisa and I sat down, we reviewed them. We were able to pick the group in January, and then we had a kickoff meeting in February. So we all got together in a showroom and kind of went through the agenda for the year and what we were going to do, and everybody was all excited, and we took a couple pictures and did some like icebreaker activities, so they got to know each other because they're all coming from different firms across New England. And it was great. And then we never saw each other again. No. February kind of shut everything down, or March shut everything down. And because of the nature of a lot of the workshops, we were able to pivot because they were guest speakers and things like that. And everybody was really good about logging in and listening to the like hour-long workshop, and they were still engaged with the speakers as well. However, it kind of put a wrench in some of our activities, like the outdoor golfing event that we do, and some of those in-person meetings that we weren't able to do. So Lisa and I kind of came up with this emerging experience series is what we ended up calling it. And feedback from previous years, we always gave them surveys kind of at the end of the year asking them, what did you get out of the program? Is there anything you wanted to work on? And year after year, I was hearing like, I really wish I had a better opportunity to work on public speaking. I really wish that I had, maybe a chance to meet everybody a little bit more intimately, right? So I'll let Lisa take it over from here, but the idea that we came up with was this emerging experience series that turned out to be really helpful for the entire group.
So yeah, we basically gave the class homework and a group project. So Brianna and I like to say that we just kind of took it back to the basics of how we could get the group to connect and work together when we couldn't physically be together. So we kind of created this little mission, separated the group. We had 25, 24, I think, participants in the group last year. So we split them up into a couple different groups, small groups of 4 to 5 people, and told them that they had to create basically a webinar series that they were going to be presenting to the IIDA community. And we tried to break it down and give some basic parameters around it. So we said, as you can see, has to be a 45-minute topic, allow 15 minutes for Q&A, use proper referencing, everyone has to participate and be involved in the group. Luckily, this is typically a group of, type A self-starter personalities, so we didn't really have a problem, I think, with that. And then we set up milestones for them. So each group was assigned a coach it was either, Rihanna or myself, or Steph Como, who was our immediate New England past president, that they could check in with, they could ask questions with, they would do a run through with, so that they felt that they had the support to do the project. And all of the topics that they chose were topics of their choosing. So at the time, I think it was our July meeting that we dropped this little bombshell on them that this is what they would be doing. We gave a list of maybe suggested topics, and the only thing we said that they couldn't do is that they couldn't talk about designing for COVID, because everybody was talking about it last year, and it could be any other topic except that one. So the topics were really wide ranging, and it was really great to see how each group kind of bonded and came together and found a topic that was of a similar interest to them. So the one you can see on the slide here was, inclusive restrooms and designing for equity. And it was really interesting because this particular presentation took us through a little bit of a history lesson as to, how and why restrooms are the way that they are. Some potential legal implications and design and code implications, and then ended with kind of a little charrette of their thoughts on how the restroom could be redesigned. And, the other topics, if you guys look, everyone on the call looks at the full presentation, there's a slide on each of the other topics. But real fast, there was one, what do all these letters mean? And it was breaking down, IIDA, AIA, LEAD, Fit Well, all of those. And that's actually been a program that some of the local professors have reached out to have those participants present to the students to break that information down for them. We had a session on curating experiences for children, which was really fascinating and really kind of talked about the importance of play in design. And then there was one that was called Gen Z, Millennials, and I think it was Gen Z, Millennials, and Gen X walk into a bar. And it was all about designing for different generations in restaurant design. So really wide-ranging topics, and we had really great attendance at all of the different webinars.
Yeah, I just real quick, I think what was so amazing about this submission to me is that I feel like you really gave people agency as members. And in doing that, you ended up creating programming that was really engaging for other members, because this is one of those moments where you really can't fake this kind of enthusiasm, intelligence, and passion. So to just give people this kind of platform and, push them a little bit and nudge them a little bit, maybe out of their comfort zone, like this quote kind of talks about a little bit from Gloria. I love this idea. It's so cool.
Yeah, that was one of our goals, was to empower them, right? Because they are emerging leaders. So they each took ownership of something. And by giving them the option for picking the topic and then putting the graphics together and doing the research, we got a lot of really great feedback that, I always wanted to do a little bit more research into something. And this is just giving me a really good excuse to do that, right? And then they become an expert on that topic. And then they are perceived that way, right? So then they give credibility and, this really great experience. And then our entire community was able to benefit from it as well, because it wasn't something that, a manufacturer was putting together that was a CEU, that was only accessible to one group of people, right? So we published it. The event was free to anybody. And it was really amazing, and that kind of bleeds into how we promoted it. So we have a really great communications committee up here in New England. We created these little Instagram posts and these little graphics that kind of catch everything. We had a landing page on the website that gave a description of each of the events, and you could also register through the website. So again, we were able to promote it ahead of the game, and then we used their faces, right? So they could promote themselves, right? So we were saying, get all your coworkers to sign on, and
get your mom to sign on.
Invite your mom. Yeah, we basically were like, does your family not know what you do? Well, you should invite them to this free webinar. Yeah. So it was really great, and we had a lot of support from the community, and they were really proud to be able to have the opportunity.
That is absolutely awesome. We have a couple of minutes left, and I really just want to hear a little bit more about what's next for this. I mean, you had some incredible results. It sounds like you ticked off all the boxes you had hoped to tick off with folks. What's the plan? What are you all going to do this year? How are you going to expand on it or repeat it?
So this year, I guess the 2021 class knows about this a little bit, but they have not been formally given their assignment. That will kind of happen at our next July session. So if there is anybody on the call here, surprise, because you'll see some of this in the coming weeks. But I think right now, my current co-chair, Amber, Rian had rolled off from co-chair at the end of 2020, and our current past president, Megan Kennedy, are working to kind of review the program, kind of rework some of the parameters. As Rian had mentioned, we always survey the participants of the class at the end of every year. So we're kind of going through those results and seeing if there's any little pinch points or things that we can do to support the class. But I think, everyone on the call, please look for the sessions. They'll be coming out in November. We are planning, we usually did them at, it's like a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday or something at lunchtime. Yeah. As Rian said, everything was recorded and saved on the website to be used as a resource for future years.
Yeah, I absolutely love this submission. I thought it was great. One thing I wanted to pull out that you just shared that I think is really, really valuable. It was said earlier too, but you all were in constant communication with these people. So I think the surveys after events and programs are awesome. I encourage all chapters to do that, but you opened up dialogue during this whole thing. So I feel like you probably got feedback. You probably heard really great tips, criticisms, positivities, all of that stuff during the actual program. And I just want to say kudos to you because I think that that's awesome.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we were a bit nervous to, when we came up with this idea, we realized that it was going to be a lot of work for them and honestly, more engagement than we have ever asked from any prior emerging leader participant because of the legwork in terms of doing the research and putting a presentation together. The slide that you showed with the inclusive restrooms, one of the designers took it upon herself to make a little icon graphic for each one of the slides. So there was like a toilet that got turned into a rocket ship and like, she did all this like amazing little detail just for the graphics so that the presentation looked nice. And I think again, like it was a way for them to, kind of take their talents and show everybody what was important and how they kind of took on that challenge. So while we felt bad giving them extra work in addition to all of their work from home madness, they still appreciated it and we're grateful for it. So
well, thank you both so much for joining me today. I really, really, really appreciate it. This was absolutely awesome. Kudos to you again. And thank you for being here.